I have to put on my Bernard glasses. Okay, so I just got done watching the final episode of this first season of Westworld. I'm thoroughly jazzed. I cannot wait for many more seasons to come. I have been such a huge fan of this show since it first aired, and have been looking forward to every episode on a weekly basis, further cultivating theories and getting into kind of the lore of this world and trying to figure out timelines and the loops and how all these characters, fit into a larger scheme. It's raised several more questions for me with this last episode, but I'm so glad that, first of all, a lot of my theories from the very beginning paid off really well. Second of all, that a lot of characters, honestly, pretty much a majority of the characters I invested in are going to be propelling themselves through new narratives, hopefully, in future seasons. So, first out of the gate, the acting on the show is phenomenal. I kept shifting my allegiance, as it were, to characters as the series was going on, just because every episode seemed to provide a lot of meat for a particular type of character and further enhance their appeal for me and further their storyline and further their story arc and character development a little bit stronger. At first, I really was in Camp Dolores. Like, she was very much the central figure that I found myself very much kind of sympathizing with a lot throughout the first 2 or 3 episodes. But as a lot of the other supporting casts became more relevant, or their stories became a little bit more intricate, even though I still enjoyed Dolores as a character, I love what Evan Rachel Wood's doing. I'm sorry, Thandie Newton, hands down, was my favorite actor and favorite character as Maeve in this series. All in all, there's too many awesome characters to name in this series. I mean, I can name all of them probably just off the top of my head, everybody, but for me, Maeve's storyline and how she just went from this total kind of aloof host to ultimate badass at the end, who has kind of an emotional conflict right up until the very last few seconds of her time in the last episode. She just won me over completely, and I really just enjoy watching Thandie Newton be this compassionate but also sophisticated and stone cold character, sometimes all at once. And it's to portray not just all those emotions, but also to kind of give a sense that these are artificial emotions as well. That's a challenge, I'm sure, for a lot of these actors, and they all pull off phenomenally. Thandie Newton is my MVP for this season as Maeve, but like I said before, Evan Rachel Wood as Dolores probably comes in second. Spoilers here, the shared role of William / the Man in Black, provided by Jimmy Simpson and Ed Harris, probably comes in third. Bernard became a very, very sympathetic character to me as more revelations about his character came about. I'm going to come out and say it. I've been cool with James Marsden in movies and TV shows before. This is the most likable I've ever found James Marsden to be, and probably because they actually give him something of purpose and consequence to do. You know him probably as Cyclops from the X-Men movies, where he's relegated kind of to just supporting character status or the background, even though he's known to be one of the team's most efficient and prolific leaders. He's always in the shadow of Jackman's Wolverine in those movies. He was in the shadow of Superman in that Superman Returns movie, which has many problems. He's been in a couple things I've enjoyed here and there, but never has really found like role worthy of kind of the leading man status he could have. And this role in Westworld, when at first it was kind of humorous to just see James Marsden get killed over and over, as I'm like, because that's what happens to him in other movies. I'm really glad that he ventured out beyond that with his character of Teddy and actually became something of a badass in his own right. It's about time James Marsden was given a ultimate badass role, and right up until the end, but still, again, portraying a lot of conflict and a lot of intrigue on where his character can go. Does he develop quite as much sentience and awareness of himself as the other hosts do, or what have you? Anthony Hopkins, I always enjoy a good Anthony Hopkins role. I'm kind of glad that he's going for a more subdued role as opposed to something like along the lines of Hannibal Lecter. He reminded me a lot of like a more evil, manipulative version of John Hammond. The duplicity of the character of Ford in this series, like, I never could quite make out like what the agenda with him was, but I was okay with that, because I couldn't really tell if he was being just this all-controlling kind of a bastard of a god to these robotic hosts, or if, as this last episode kind of proved, there's some sort of altruism in his manipulations towards the end, and it threw me for a loop, honestly. Like, oh, okay, so he's been wanting this the whole time, while at the same time acting as if he didn't. You know, it was kind of weird, and there's a lot of twists and turns, and leave it to a property from J.J. Abrams and one of the Nolans to have a lot of mystery and intrigue surrounding it. Let's talk about that a little bit, the story structure of this particular series, just because this is going to draw up many comparisons to a lot of other properties that these showrunners have been affiliated with. Stuff like, let's say, Inception for the Nolans. Stuff like Lost, definitely. You could kind of compare a lot of the twists and turns and trying to figure out exactly what's going on. However, this, I feel, has an ultimate payoff as opposed to Lost, where it kind of just was made up as it goes along. I have a feeling there is kind of a larger endgame insight that they're able to kind of stretch out over a couple of seasons, perhaps. This is definitely one of those shows that I hope doesn't get too extended of a run, that it starts to wear out its premise a little. As we found out at the end of this last episode, there's so many other aspects they can explore. Again, spoilers, Samurai World. Come on, Season 2, give me some Samurai World. This show was fun, and yeah, you can tell a lot of the influence has been brought up about it from other properties, such as, very much, I was paralleling a lot of this to my experience playing Red Dead Redemption, because of the fact of you have these narratives going on with non-playable characters. You can interact with that environment however you want. Consequences be damned. It definitely has changed my attitude whenever I play the game now, because I do feel a pang of guilt every time I accidentally shoot someone I'm not intending to shoot, or just go out of my comfort zone and kill a grizzly just for the shits and giggles of it. It really is kind of an interesting take on culture and so forth, and what different religions or different people constitute as being consciousness, but it's kind of a slam on our pop culture and how we're just completely like demanding to be in control of our environments, even if they're artificial ones. But above all else, I enjoy this show for one very personal reason, and that's because this is the first show in a long while that my dad and I completely geek out about on a regular basis. I was so looking forward to watching this show with him when my folks came to visit for Thanksgiving, because he had, for many weeks before, had just been calling me and texting me. It's the first time my dad has texted me while I'm at work about something other than, hey, how's work, or hey, how are you doing? He was about, oh my god, I have so many theories about the Man in Black. I have so many theories about Bernard. And it was so kind of refreshing to geek out on this show with my dad. And I'm very seriously wondering what his thoughts are on this season finale, so I might be talking to him a little bit later this week about that. I have to thank the show for that, is that it's one of those simple little pleasures in life that my dad and I find a way to connect on, and it's kind of just fun and refreshing to be able to talk shop on the show with him. So I gotta thank you for that, Westworld. Another cool thing my dad and I have in common. Again, I am looking forward to a season of this. I'm going to try to see if I can incorporate some kind of drinking game into this, the same way I do for Game of Booze whenever Game of Thrones airs its seasons. However, I don't know, because I kind of feel like, I mean, it's obviously very different from Game of Thrones, but there's a whole new set of rules to this type of show wherein I really don't know what to expect. I mean, I knew that the idea of different time periods being incorporated into their theme parks was something that was focused on in the original movie from Michael Crichton, but I never would have. That Samurai World thing took me completely by surprise, and I was like, yes, let's do this. Let's go to Japan. Let's get some Rome world in here. Big theory right here, guys. What if all of the time period HBO shows are part of the Delos Corporation's expanding theme park resorts? We have Westworld. Bring back Ray Stevenson for a little bit of Rome World. whatever. Get some Ken Watanabe in there for Samurai World. Hell, I wouldn't be disappointed if Peter Dinklage turned out to be a host and you just had Westeros World. The mind just goes crazy thanks to shows like this. You start just spinning so many plates to see like what's gonna stay afloat and what's gonna fall immediately. I don't know. I always have this huge like adrenaline rush after every episode of Westworld, and I end up just either tweeting the hell about what I enjoyed about the episode or talking about it with friends, or like I said, geeking out with my dad. But it feels kind of good to just talk about this whole season, and again, I can't wait for more. Bravo Westworld, bravo Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, bravo J.J. Abrams and Brian Burke, bravo to the cast. Such an incredible cast, such an incredible show. Go catch Westworld Season 1 if you haven't already, and if you haven't, all I can say is this: these violent delights have violent ends.